and welcome back to 100 Days of Hidden History, and today we're going to be talking about the gruesome truth behind the caged graves. Most people assume that these kind of cages over the top of graves was to keep the dead in. And in many ways they were right, but not because they were afraid of vampires or the Walking Dead or anything like that, but because they were afraid of body snatchers. Although graves with cages over the top of them can be found across the UK and Europe and even the world, the caged graves that we're talking about in particular today are those that can be found in Edinburgh. During the early modern period, the study of medicine and the anatomy of the human body really began to take off in Edinburgh. And as a result, there was a huge demand for bodies to be used for dissection. However, it was also widely believed that if your body was used for dissection, then you wouldn't be able to be resurrected by Christ on Judgment Day. And so, as a result, no one was willing to leave their bodies to science, and it was considered a really terrible fate. As a result, the only bodies that were available to be used for dissection were those of executed criminals who didn't have the same rights as everybody else. But with such a high demand of bodies for dissection, the demand very quickly surpassed the number of bodies that were being made available via execution. And so the anatomists had to turn to even darker methods to acquire the bodies that they needed for their studies. This was where the body snatchers came in. Enterprising minds in Edinburgh's underbelly very quickly realised that they could make themselves quite a big profit by digging up freshly buried bodies and selling them to the anatomists. So that's exactly what they started to do. So these cages that have been placed over the top of the graves were placed over the newly buried bodies in order to stop the body snatchers from digging them up and taking the bodies to be dissected. So yes, they were to keep the dead in their graves, but not because they were worried about the dead climbing out themselves.